So today I'm going to go through what closing is, and I'm going to talk with you about what it is. I'm going to talk with you about the 4 biggest mistakes reps make that prevent you from selling. I'm going to talk to you about the 4 psychological steps that a customer goes through to go from having no idea who you are or what your product is to making the decision to buy it today. And then I'm going to give you my 3 best tips on closing. Sound good? Cool. All right, first thing I want to do is define closing for you. There's a lot of ways that you can define closing. You know, in essence, someone might say, well, closing is making the sale. You know, if you close, the sale is made. If you don't close, it's not made. The way I like to define closing that gives you a little bit of a deeper understanding so that you can improve your ability as a closer is this definition. I see closing is a process of building trust and giving permission. Closing is a process of building trust and giving permission. Building trust with the customer. See, trust is different from rapport. Rapport means they like you. Okay, but and that's a first step in building trust. You don't trust somebody that you don't like typically. However, trust is it's the next level, right? If they just like you, but they don't trust you or they don't respect you, you're not going to make the sale. And once they do trust you, though, once you have their trust and their respect, you can literally get to a place where you can give permission for them to feel safe to buy today. See, it's not about, do you want to buy? It's Mrs. Jones, right? You know, you like me, you trust me. You don't say that to them, but right, they like you and they trust you. So, Ms. Jones, based on what you told me, this seems like the best set for you. You want to go ahead and get it today? Right? You give them permission that this is the set that's the best for you today. You want to go ahead and get it. So it's building trust and then giving them permission to buy. And I'll explain that more as we go on. 4 reasons that you don't sell. These are 4 reasons that you don't sell, that you're not as good of a closer as you could be, or should be, or will be after the message. The first reason, I'm going to give you 4 reasons you don't sell. Number 1, you're not committed to selling. You're not committed to selling. See, telling isn't selling. I said that. Those of you that were at my demo last night, you heard that. I said telling isn't selling. There's a big difference. See, how many of you can think about a time you were guilty of going into a demo, all right, maybe you were tired, maybe you'd had a bad week or bad few days, having some no sales, and you go into a demo and you're not really trying to sell. You're just going through the motions. Anybody can relate to having been guilty of that at least once or twice? Right? You're just going through the motions. You're just reading the demo, just trying to get to the end. If they buy, they buy. If they don't, that's fine. And that's a very weak demo. Now, here's something that you can write down in relation to this point. All results are born from your intentions. All results are born from intentions. So whether it's the result of making a sale or the result that John Berghoff had last year when he ran a 52-mile marathon, right? It all began with the intention to make that sale or the intention to run that marathon. You follow? Right? If you got great grades, if that was the result that you got, it was because you had the intention of getting those grades. Now, here's the problem. The mistake reps make is they don't have the intention of selling, or they don't have the intention of how much they want to sell. And something that I discovered the year that I sold 200,000 back in 2005, I had this revelation. You know when you're falling asleep late at night sometimes, and like you have a thought pop in your head? It's like such a good idea. You're like, I got to get up and write this down. You guys ever have that? Right? It's like as you're falling asleep, your brain, I forget how that works, but it gets in this level of this frequency where it operates, where creative thought happens as you're falling asleep. And so I was falling asleep one night, and I had this thought. I go, my average order size is what it is based on all the things that lead up to it, but based on my intention for what the average order is going to be, based on what I say during the demo, all of these things affect my average order size and create it. And what made me realize that was true is I thought of, well, what if I wanted to have a $100 average order size? If your goal was to have a $100 average order size, your thoughts, your words, your intentions, everything you could align to make that result happen. You follow me? If your intention was to have a $100 average order size, you probably wouldn't start on the ultimate set. You'd probably drop down a lot faster. If they give you objections, you'd probably just kind of go, okay, yeah, you're right. If they said, can I buy just one knife? You go, yeah, you can buy a couple knives, Mrs. Jones, and you drop right down. You guys follow me? So if you didn't have the intention to sell, if your intention was to sell $100, then you could align your thoughts and your words and your actions to produce that result of a $100 average order size. No or yes? Okay. That means it must also be true that if you decided and set the intention to have an average order size of $400 or $500, that it would also align your thoughts, words, and actions during your presentation, before and during your presentations, to produce that result, right? Wouldn't that have to be true? If it was true for 100, wouldn't it have to be true for any amount? So it starts with setting your intention on how much you want to sell. And so I decided to experiment. The next morning I go, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to see if I can just decide my average order size. And so I needed it to be really big so that I would know it wasn't a coincidence, right? For this experiment to happen, I'm like, okay, I can't just set it for like 500 because I've had days where I had a $500 average order size. So it might just be a coincidence. I need to make it like big enough so that if it happens, I'll know that this is true. This is powerful, right? So I woke up the next morning and I had 3 appointments set and I was like, I'm going to go for a $1,000 average order size today. And I remember I was heading out, got my demo bag, and I'm walking by and I have a roommate that also sells Cutco. He's in the living room watching TV. He didn't sell as much Cutco as I did that year. But I said, hey, Tim, I said, I'm going to sell $3,000 today. He said, why, you got some good demos lined up? I said, honestly, I didn't even qualify these leads. I don't know. He said, then how do you know you're going to sell $3,000? I'm like, because I'm deciding to. I'm setting the intention that I'm going to sell $3,000. I have 3 appointments. I'm going to average $1,000 per appointment. My goal today is $3,000. And so what happened is I started higher. I closed higher than I normally would. I closed on the ultimate set, right? I talked about it as if it were the set they had to get. When they gave me an objection, I didn't just drop right down, right? I stuck with it. And so my thoughts, my words, and my actions were all aligned because in the back of my mind, I had this intention of a $1,000 average order size. And so I stayed above $1,000 as long as I possibly could. Now, I did 3 appointments that day, and I went home, and there's my roommate, Tim, still sitting on the couch watching TV. How'd your little experiment go? Did you sell $3,000? I said, close. I said, I sold $4,300. And that was, by the way, you guys heard me talk about last night how I sold $200,000 and I averaged 8 appointments a week. That's how. Every day that I went out, I just threw out a random number of how much I was going to sell, and I decided $2,000, and I would call it out to my roommate, $2,000 today, $3,000 today, and more often than not, it happened. And I can promise you it wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that intention in place. So the first mistake that people make, and the biggest mistake, is you're not committed to selling. The second mistake, the second reason you don't sell, is you fail to make the right connection with a customer. You fail to make the right connection with a customer. And the right connection with a customer is one where you have mutual respect, where you have trust, not where they just like you. How many of you guys have had that where you feel uncomfortable when you're closing on your demo because you feel like your customer is superior to you and you're kind of like this college kid? You don't feel like there's a mutual eye-to-eye respect. So that's a big mistake, and there's a way to resolve that. The third problem is you don't sell the emotional aspects of Cutco. You don't sell the emotional aspects of owning Cutco. You try to sell on logic. See, customers buy on emotion, not on logic. They buy because they feel like it's a good idea to buy. They feel like it's a safe decision. They feel like it's the right decision. But you sell on logic. You sell on the design of the handle. And you focus on all these logical aspects of Cutco. And if you don't tie in the emotions, if you don't make them feel why the edge is so good and how it's going to feel to own it, using third-person stories, right, using descriptive language, you're going to lose them. And the fourth reason you don't sell is you don't eliminate common concerns in advance. I'll say that slower. You don't eliminate common concerns in advance. How many of you guys get, I want to think about it from your customers? Right? It's pretty common. I want to think about it. Do you know there's a way to, there's a little script and approach that it's in the handout, and you'll get it if you email me or if you already have it. But you can set it up ahead of time. And you saw that in my demo last night. If you saw that, I handled all of those things ahead of time. All the objections, like we want to think about it, it's too much money, all the common objections, you need to plug into your demo in advance so they don't come up at the end. Or if they do, you can just remind them, oh, remember I told you about that? How you have that 15-day trial? And they go, oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and get it. So handle it in advance. All right, here's the 4-stage psychological buying process. This is the 4-stage process, psychological process that all your customers go through to get to a sale, to get to a purchase. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on these. In fact, I'll mention something real quick. John Berghoff and I have been working on a group Cutco coaching program for quite a few months now, maybe 6 months. Something we've been talking about, working on for a long time. As many of you know, John and I coach individually a lot of sales reps, the top reps in the company. Taylor Waithofer, Katie Fingerhut, Jeffrey Paul Bobrick. And we don't have enough time to be able to coach everybody. And we've had a lot of clients or Cutco reps ask us for, how can I get coaching from you? And either some of our clients pay us $500 a month that work with Cutco, and either sales reps don't have that money yet, they're not at that level, right? Or we just don't have time to coach any more individual reps. So the point is, we're about to launch a Cutco group coaching program. John's going to tell you more about it tomorrow. I just want to mention it. But all of the stuff that I'm going to mention right now and the rest of this talk, we're going to be going in depth. And we're going to be teaching all of you, all of the clients, or all of our clients that are in the group coaching program, the same things that we teach our individual clients for like 1/10 of the price. Does that sound pretty good, you guys? Okay, so John will tell you more about that tomorrow. So here's the 4 stages, the 4 psychological stages. This is the buying process all customers go through, and you must take your prospects through these 4 stages. Number 1, make a connection. Make a connection. That's stage 2, that's stage 1. Stage 2, once you've made a connection with that customer, they trust you, they like you, they have respect for you, then you've got to create interest. So you have to create interest in the product. So stage 1, make a connection. Stage 2, create interest. Stage 3, cause desire. Once they're interested, you have to take them from being interested to actually wanting it, right? Wanting it. And then stage 4, you've got to get a decision. You got to get a decision from them as to whether or not they're going to buy Cutco that day. You can't get an I want to think about it, because how many of you guys know that I want to think about it usually turns into zero? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the commission you guys make on the sale you almost close is the same commission that I make on the sale I almost close. Right? It's not very much. So to make a connection, share your goals. And I went over that in my demo last night. Share your goals effectively, passionate. Be inspired about your goals. Your customer will get inspired about them as well. That's how you make a connection. And then ask them about their goals. You guys saw that in my demo last night, right? I shared my goals in an inspirational way. I asked if it was okay for me to do that. And then once I did that, I asked them what their goals were, what they were excited about, right? And I pulled it out of them. Get your customers to talk about what they're excited about. How many of your customers get asked that question, right? How many people get asked in like outside of the Cutco world, what are your goals? What are you excited about this year? What do you care about? Right? Instantly, you have this level of mutual respect from them. Wow, I really respect you. I appreciate that you're asking me that. All right, to create interest, you got to find out what kind of knives they have. Don't just sell them on the junk knives. If they have Hinkles or Wusel, find out what kind of knives they have and address that. Third, cause desire. You got to ask questions. The way you cause desire is to ask questions so they can tell you that you understand them, that you're interested in them and what they want. Right? You've heard John Berghoff say that. Customers, it's not about how much your customers understand you or your product. It's how much you understand them that matters, right? And the fourth, getting a decision. You got to make it safe for them to buy today. You got to make them feel comfortable using the guarantee, using the payment options, letting them know there's no risk, there's no reason not to buy today. And I'm going to wrap up with 3 keys to closing success. 3 keys to closing success. Number 1, establish a posture of trust and respect. Posture, Posture. Posture is the way someone views you. And see, your posture is more important than anything that you can do or say. The posture you have with somebody, if they don't trust you and they don't respect you, then you have very little power with the words that you use on your demo. Establish, the first key to closing, establish a posture of trust and respect. Trust by caring about them, right? Respect asking questions and the way that you share your goals. Also dress up. Dress the part, by the way. Somebody asked me yesterday, what do you wear in your demos? I said, I always wear dress slacks. I wear a belt, and I usually wear a non-button-up shirt, like a nice V-neck T-shirt or something, tucked in. So it's somewhat casual, but it's dressy. If you dress like a college kid, they're looking down at you as the college kid. You want to outdress them just a little bit. You want to look sharp. Okay? Second key to closing: relate the emotional experience of owning Cutco. Relate the emotional experience of owning Cutco. You did it with third-person stories, right? When you tell them about the edge, that's logic. When you say, Ms. Jones, my mom loves her Cutco. She didn't realize how dollar knives were till she got Cutco, and now she could never use anything else. She absolutely loves it, right? Now they feel that. They relate to that. They connect with that. That's how you relate the emotional experience. And by the way, you've got to keep them at P, P-E-E. It's an acronym for peak emotional experience. And that happens by you going through the demo fairly quickly. Okay, pausing at certain points to ask if they have any questions, but continuing to go through. I told this last night in my demo, right? If you're talking about the trimmer and you go, hey, it's great for this and this, and they go, ooh, I do those things. And then you keep going, and this, and you can also cut this and this and this, right? You had them at hello, right? You had them when you listed off those first two uses that everybody does, but then you lost them. And we talk ourselves out of a sale more often than you'd realize because we just keep talking, like Deanna said, talking and talking and talking. Keep it a peak emotional experience. Get them excited about something. As soon as they're excited about it, leave them wanting more by going on to the next thing. Don't keep talking about it. Don't bore them. If you see them zoning off, right, apologize. Go, I was going into a detail on that, Ms. Jones. I'm sorry. Let me go to the next thing. Keep it a peak emotional experience and all the way till the close. And the third is give them permission to have concerns. Everybody has concerns when they're investing money, especially a lot of money. So give them permission to have concerns and still buy. Oh, Ms. Jones, it's okay that, I'm kind of worried about, the money. Oh, Ms. Jones, I totally understand. In fact, almost all of my customers are nervous to spend that much money on knives because they never have before. It's totally normal for you to, right? So they're like, oh, it is okay. It's okay for me to feel this way. Ms. Jones, but here's what they do. They just do it on the deposit program. They put $500 down today. You get the whole set in a couple of weeks. That way there's no risk. You can try it out with your husband and make sure you like it. So you want to go ahead and do that? Right? You're making it okay that they have the concern and still buying anyway. You follow? And guys, I wanted to give you a lot on that. So the next 3 pages of the handouts, it's how to eliminate concerns in advance before they become objections. Okay, this is detailed scripts on how to handle, I want to think about it, or can I tell you tomorrow? Objections on how to handle, I don't need knives, or my knives are fine. How to handle, I need to talk to my husband. How to handle, it's too much money, or I can't afford it. And then there's a bonus, how to double and triple your recommendations by handling the objections. I don't know anyone, or I don't feel comfortable doing that. Because if you can't close people on leads, you're not going to have any more people to close on Cutco, right? So guys, that's all I got for you tomorrow. There's going to be a lot more in the coaching program that we're going to launch here. John's going to tell you more about that tomorrow. And I appreciate your time. Go out there and close, even though you're dummies, right? I'm handling that concern. Even though you're dummies, it's okay to be a dummy and still go close a lot of sales. Thanks.